Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Now, as we are all aware, last week we had a Nintendo Direct revealing Byleth as the final fighter for the Smash Ultimate Fighters Pass number 1, and we also got the reveal that we will be having 6 new characters added as part of DLC Pack 2, and those characters have already been predetermined. So there's a lot of speculation going around as to who those 6 fighters might be, and I wanted to throw my hat in the ring, but more specifically in regards to characters that no one is talking about. Now, I don't mean that literally no one is talking about these characters, but I don't really see them coming up as part of the general conversation. For the most part, everybody seems to be talking about your Genos, your Dantes, your Master Chiefs, your Doom guys, your Minecraft Steves, and a lot of those characters keep coming to the foreground, which, as much as I'd enjoy to see any of those characters in play, I think there's a couple of very important characters that have just been left out of the conversation, and I want to at least bring them to the foreground for your consideration. Now, you don't have to agree, but I think it's interesting to speculate. So before we dive into that, if you're new to the channel, be sure to hit the subscribe button down below, as we are providing you with daily content from a myriad of different games, included but not limiting to Marvel's Ultimate Alliance 3, Smash Ultimate, Minecraft, and other projects here and there that I have a ton of fun working on and preparing for you. But without further ado, let's jump into the 4 characters that I see no one is talking about. Now, the first character that I'd like to have a mention of is a character who's pretty well known in terms of the gaming community, and I haven't seen him pop up at all in any of the conversation regarding possible DLC fighters, which I think is a little bit concerning given his history. And that character that I speak of is, of course, Spyro. And Spyro would be really cool to see in Smash Ultimate because he is one of those gaming icons. He's been around for a while now. He's fallen on some hardship and had some difficulty getting back up, but we do have the recently remastered trilogy that's come available in recent years, and being added to Smash Ultimate could be part of the revival that Spyro needs to shake off the dust and get back into the conversation. Now, one of the things that I think would be really cool about having Spyro as a playable character is, as it currently stands, we have hardly any quadruped characters. No characters that are really on all fours for their movesets. I mean, off the top of my head, and as I combed through the roster, I really only came up with 3. So you've got Pikachu, Pichu, and Ivysaur. And it's a little bit sad that all of the quadruped representation in terms of fighters that we have available to use are from the Pokemon series. Now, yes, that makes sense, and of course the pocket monsters are going to have a higher chance of being a quadruped character, especially when most of the characters that we see are humanoid or anthropomorphic in some way, shape, or form. But it would be really awesome to see a character, in my opinion, that brings that unique spin and element to being a fighter. And it really wouldn't be that difficult to put together a moveset for him, as he has a lot of different games that we can pull inspiration from if we were to get Spyro as a playable character. The second character that I thought would be interesting to talk about, I really haven't seen any conversation about at all. And maybe I'm just not looking in the right places. But we don't have a ton of characters that operate in duos. Now, yes, we do have a few, and one that's been added very recently with being Banjo and Kazooie in the most recent version of the Fighters Pass. Really, the only other duo characters that immediately come to mind are Ice Climbers and Rosalina and Luma. And I think it would be really cool to see another duo set of characters. And the one that primarily comes to mind, I debated between this duo and Jak and Daxter, but I'm choosing to omit Jak and Daxter from the equation just where their series wasn't as popular or as groundbreaking as Ratchet and Clank. Now, the problem that I see with the possibility of getting Ratchet and Clank is the fact that they are a Sony property, and Sony is rather restrictive on what they are allowing to do. I mean, they're just barely starting to integrate cross-platform play in all of their years where they've been direct competitors not only with Nintendo, but also with Microsoft and other developers. They're really starting to consider breaking down that wall that they've had put up for so long, which is why I think it would be so cool to see them allow a character and an intellectual property like Ratchet and Clank included into the game. Now, I don't want to speculate a whole lot on possible move sets or other things that could be used with these different characters, because I'm not a designer, and I would leave that to those who work on those projects with Sakurai and the rest of his team. But, I mean, in terms of recovery, for example, it wouldn't be that difficult to have Clank used as a propeller or rotor backpack similar to what we see King K. Rool use. And that would just be really, really cool to have Ratchet and Clank as playable characters and bring those characters back into the foreground and kind of restore some of the glory that I feel that they've lost as well. Now, the third character here is a little bit quirky, and I thought him up a couple of months back and kind of brushed him aside because, well, in part of my mind, it was like, well, how would you actually get this character to work? But the more I sat and thought about it, the more it actually made more sense to me. And that character is Taiza Hori, more commonly known as Dig Dug. And Dig Dug is one of those characters from the Namco Atari genre that I actually played his games growing up and really loved the concept of it. Now, of course, Dig Dug you wouldn't be able to incorporate in terms of his standard gameplay, but take Pac-Man, for example. I mean, Pac-Man is instrumental as a character as he was coming up. His moveset is, except for moves like his side B, not reminiscent in any form of the source material of the game. There's a couple of different repurposed moves from the Namco library of characters incorporated into Pac-Man as a character, whereas Dig Dug doesn't have any representation at all, not even in the form of an assist trophy. And even if it were representation just as an assist trophy, I mean, that'd at least put a smile on my face. But there's no reason in my mind where you have a character like Pac-Man, or even a character like Mr. Game & Watch from more of that 8-bit clunky feeling animations, where you wouldn't be able to incorporate some sort of moveset with Taiza Hori. For example, you could make his F smash similar to Mr. Game & Watch with just different moves that he pulls out. You could make his move something along the lines of pulling out one of the dragons that he generally hunts down in his game that emits a little blast of fire immediately in front of him, and maybe have an animation similar to that of Ridley's forward smash, for example. But those are just a couple of ways that I think a character like Dig Dug could be incorporated into being a playable character, and I certainly wouldn't complain at all if they found some way to incorporate his quirky nature into a fully fledged moveset and playable character. And I might be the only one that shares that opinion, but at the same time, this is just speculative, and I'm talking of things that I think would be cool to see, and interested to see what your thoughts are as well. Now, the fourth and final character that I want to mention as being a possibility is a character who actually had their roots basically originate with Nintendo. And yes, they've kind of graduated and moved away from Nintendo as a whole, and is now, if I'm not mistaken, more of a Microsoft property than anything else. But that is the titular character from the Ninja Gaiden series, that being Ryu Hayabusa. And I know I can hear you thinking right now, well, we already have a Ryu in Smash. Why would they add another Ryu with the same name? Well, I mean, why did they add a character like Better Little Mac and Better Sheik into the game? All joking aside, of course. But there's not really, in my mind, a reason why they would restrict a character from being added just because we already have a character of that same name in the game. But the other point of concern is, since Ninja Gaiden has been moved off of Nintendo's platform, it has taken a little bit more of a mature turn, with most of his recent games being rated M. But as a rebuttal to that, I would like to offer this kind of counter argument that we have Snake and Bayonetta in the game, who their games are definitely intended for more of a mature audience for distinct reasons, to be sure. But there's no reason why Ryu Hayabusa couldn't be tamed down to be more appropriate for the game. He doesn't have an overly revealing outfit or inappropriate moveset, or at least from the history of his games, you would be able to find something that you can incorporate into a working moveset that is still loyal to the character and gives him a nice callback to his roots with Nintendo. And that's why I think that he would be a pretty good candidate for potentially having a slot in this upcoming Fighters Pass. Now, who knows if any of these characters, if any at all, have been included for the next Fighters Pass. Well, we'll have to wait and see by the end of December of this upcoming year of 2021 to see who all the 6 fighters are. But it'd be interesting to come back to this video at that point in time and say, hey, well, maybe we got one of them right. But at the end of the day, this is just kind of some of my thoughts on characters that I believe should be given some consideration that I don't really see anybody talking about. So let me know what you think in the comments down below. Do you think that any of these 4 characters have a valid shot of being included in the upcoming Fighters Pass? I'd love to hear what your thoughts are, or other characters that I may not have mentioned that you feel no one else is talking about that deserve some consideration for being a fighter in this upcoming Fighters Pass. So I want to thank you again for sitting through this video and listening on my speculation. If you did enjoy, make sure you hit the subscribe button, hit the like, and don't forget to leave that comment, because I am very interested to hear your thoughts on the matter and, take more things into consideration. But thanks again, and I hope that you have an absolutely fantastic rest of your day.